because I've done a little bit of public speaking lately, and I feel like the driver that has to follow Greg Louganis now. That was awesome. Thank you. And I can only say that 7 years ago, our team swam at Towson University, and during the breaks, the Special Olympics had their competitions, and it was by far the most exciting part of that meet. Now, we lost those meets by about a combined 200 points, but it was still the most exciting part. So this is hard because, except for my family, and probably the UNC Tar Heel basketball program, you guys are the folks that matter most to me. Okay. Like many of you, I began swimming as a summer league kid. Some of you started maybe 10 to 15 years ago, and I started 55 years ago. And there have been some changes. Yeah, wow. There have been some changes in the sport since then. Right? And a lot of the changes have to do with stuff that really doesn't matter. You know, we went from burlap suits to nylon suits, to lycra suits, to paper suits, you name it, I forget it. But I remember about 5 years ago we had cheater suits, and now we have these suits that cost our athletic budgets thousands and thousands of dollars just to try to get you guys to believe that's the reason why you're going fast. And there's much more to it than that. But something that hasn't changed, and I really feel strongly about this. And I'm not sure I'd be standing here today if it wasn't for a man named Dave Houck. And I was at my first NCAA championship as a Johns Hopkins swim coach, and our team was struggling. In fact, our women's team swam with one swimmer, and we scored 1 point, and we felt really good about that. And I was struggling, and Dave was probably about, maybe he was even younger than I am now, but he came up to me and he basically said, you know, it's going to be okay. I know you can do this. He encouraged me. He was one of us. He's real. He's authentic. He's a Division III coach who also coached 2 other sports. He had a family. And he took time out simply to care about a coach who was struggling. He took time out, essentially, and he put something greater than himself at the forefront when his team and our team were battling for 5th and 6th place. And I'll never forget that. And I've received a lot of letters from some of the younger coaches, and for that I feel really good because I've encouraged them during some of their tougher times. But I ask each of you just to simply reach out to Dave Houck and thank him. Because each of us has to learn something from somebody who's gone on before us. And what I learned from Dave Houck is it doesn't matter how many medals, it doesn't matter the awards you win, it doesn't even matter. And you should hear my family about that Fortune 500 or what 550, top 50 thing is. My one daughter goes, at least you weren't last. You know, I think I finished 36 out of 50. And it's really good that the family grounds you a little bit. But you need somebody to build you back up. And I would encourage those of you who are now in your 40s to start building up the 20-year-old coaches. And those of you who are seniors, to always remember that you were a freshman at one point in time, and it can't always be freshmen do this, freshmen do that. Pretty soon they'll be your seniors, and they lead the way for the next group. And so I am so thankful tonight for not only Dave Houck's contribution to my life, but so many people on the swim committee throughout the years who've made this meet possible, and we don't even know who they are. The beautiful thing about the Top 50 award is my wife said, it's from Fortune magazine, good, maybe we'll get rich now. And one of my sisters actually called me and said, you know, you're going to get some public speaking engagements. And I said, why? And she said, because I can't afford anybody else on the list. So here I am. And I couldn't be happier than speaking with a group of people I love. And a group of people who I've always felt to be one of. And a group of people who I've shared the ups and downs. And quite frankly, I think we're in a room full of folks, coaches, swimmers, and I'm full of love to y'all, and I also want to say one thing that I think we all can do a better job of. And I think we all can do a better job of understanding the difference between a problem and an inconvenience. And this is tough language. But for those of you who seek to be all in this weekend, to seek to hit the times you want to hit, not everybody's going to hit every single time you want to, and that's just an inconvenience, folks. That's not a problem. You just bounce up the next time, and you go after it again, and you make the decision that you're going to learn from that. But what I see in today's world a little bit is we confuse the problem with an inconvenience. And you're going to say, oh, well, pretty soon you're going to start throwing me off the stage. Okay? All right, she likes it. All right, good. But where do I want to go from here? I essentially want to say to each of you that all the preparation, including getting dressed up for tonight, which is part of it, all the preparation for the meet is over. And to some extent, the folks who have prepared really well for the competition tomorrow, you'll get whatever you put into it. Our sport is like that. But I really believe that the key is, so you've been willing to prepare. You've been willing to do everything to prepare. But the absolute key to this meet is that each of you has to be willing to step up and race. That's all there is to it. You just need to step up, throw everything to the side, and just race. And have a blast doing it. And have fun. Alright? And I want to leave you with 4 stories that have shaped my coaching career, and I want to apply them to this meet. And the first was in 1982. I had a friend call me who's currently a head coach at a major university. We're all family. We are all family. It's a small world. And he called me to tell me that he had stomach cancer. And I said, ouch, and that's just not a good thing. And so that was back in the day before texting, before internet, before anything, and we got on the phone and we met, and I made some trips to Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York, and I saw him at his toughest time. Now there's a problem. That is a problem, folks. And so what I learned immediately was to head back and try to be at my best for my friend in his toughest time. And that's what we do as teammates. And I didn't learn that from any one person. I learned that from being a college swimmer. And one thing led to another, and my friend called me one day and he said, hey, I've got great news. I said, wow, maybe he's in remission. He said, no, but the doctor told me I only need to do 2 things. And one thing, I said, well, what are they? And he was just so happy. And he said, I need to wake up every morning and have my best attitude I possibly can have every day. My best attitude, not my parents' best attitude, not what is expected of me from others, but my best attitude. And I also need to surround myself by the best doctors in the world. And so I took that to heart. And those words meant a lot to me when 2 years later, the doctor said to me, George, you have cancer. And I relied on what my friend told me. And I needed to wake up. And if I was at a 4 on any one particular day, and sometimes I was a -4, I needed to at least jump 2 spots. Okay? If your team finished 6th last year, you need to at least get 4th this year, okay? But I needed to jump 2 spots. And pretty soon you're working towards trying to bring a 9.9 to your daily life every day. And you're never there, but you keep trying to shoot for it because you can't hit the 10 because that's perfect. But you're shooting for a 9.9, and that's what you guys need to do this weekend. And then I also made the decision that I did surround myself with the greatest doctors in the world. And the story gets pretty beautiful because about 2 months ago, I went in and had part of my ear removed, and my doctor was a Johns Hopkins swimmer from the class of 2001. He was prepared. I thought maybe he would want to take my whole ear off for the butterfly sets I gave him. But he was meticulous, and you cannot see to this day that I had almost 100 stitches in my ear 6 weeks ago. And that's what we do for each other. And so that's one of my 4 favorite stories. Because what happened long ago in 1982 came back, paid dividends in 2016. I thought I had a problem. It was just that he just told me, you got an inconvenience, coach. That's what you told me all along. I said, okay, the big C word, and I got a freaking inconvenience, you know. So, all right, so move on. Second story, my daughters would come to our athletic center during snow days, and they would not have school. And in Baltimore, you don't have school now if there's a threat of snow, if there's a half an inch of snow. You know, it used to be, it had to be 10 inches of snow. And I don't want to sound like I'm only talking about me or my family, but this is pretty powerful. So our daughters were running around the gym, and I asked my older daughter at one point in time, I said, Catherine, what's your favorite sport? Because I'm a jock, and I love the fact that they're down running around the gym, and you guys are jocks, and you love fellow jocks running around the gym. And so she said, that's easy, Dad, it's lacrosse. And I said, well, you put your heart to it, you do the right things, maybe you'll be pretty good someday. And Sarah, my 7-year-old at the time, goes, Dad, that's pretty easy. And I said, well, Sarah, what's your favorite sport? And she said, that's easy, Dad. And I said, what is it? She said, whatever sport I'm doing at the time. I want you to think about that. If we're totally into what we're doing at the moment, if you're totally into this weekend and there aren't interruptions, if you're totally into being a great teammate this weekend, if you're totally in not to pick your cell phone up when you're having a great conversation with somebody and interrupt it by saying, I've got to get this, means you're totally into what you're doing. My favorite team every year after that has been whatever team I'm working with that particular year. And it's helped me in my relationship with those teams. And the third story I'd like to talk about tonight was, and I hope some of you have heard of a man named Herman Boone. And Herman Boone, anybody hear of Herman Boone? And Herman Boone was the guy in the movie Remember the Titans that Denzel Washington portrayed. So now you know who Herman Boone is. And Herman Boone came and spoke, and I heard Herman Boone speak at one of my daughters got some award again. I keep talking about my family. I apologize about that. But what Herman Boone said was in the fight song or the theme song for that movie was ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough. And what Herman Boone told us all in the crowd that it takes hard work. It takes preparation. It takes sweat. It's all the stuff you've already done to climb the mountain. But it takes courage to climb the mountain and not know what's on the other side. And that's where we all are tonight. And it's going to take a lot of courage. And it's going to take your will to step up and race. Because you don't know what's going to happen. And the fourth story, and to some extent is why I know I'm ready to retire, is several years ago, one of our athletes was leading a recruit around the campus. And what usually happens in our program, if it's a young man, I usually try to recruit the mother, you know, mama's boy, that kind of thing. And if it's a young woman, I try to recruit the dad. So I'm walking with the dad, and one of our athletes is walking with the athlete, the recruit in front of me. And like most of you, you want to know what's the best thing about the particular school you're looking at. So the question was asked Sarah, one of our swimmers, what's the best thing about Hopkins swimming? And all she said was 4 words. And Sarah's a young lady who dropped from 158 to 149 and a 203. She would have done that in any program, believe me. She just had that kind of heart. She improved like no other. She was on a team that was going to that year win 5 relays at the NCAA championship. But what Sarah said simply was, everybody's into it. Everybody's into it. That's all I needed to hear. I think that's all we need to hear in this room tonight from me. My team usually goes, ring. My wife usually sits in the front row and goes, boom, that's fine. But I encourage each of you to bring it in every race. I encourage each of you to find a way to have courage and get out there and race. And Division III swimming will never be the same if every athlete in this room gets up there and races this week. Thank you.